Thank you for coming today. We're here in Rome today, right outside of Vatican City, to make an appeal to the Pope in the Vatican. And here's the gist of this. We're not here, no one's really concerned with the Pope or Vatican think about climate science, ultimately. And the Pope can have a view in line with Ban Ki-moon or Regina Paciari or any other global warming, man-made global warming fear promoter. That's not really the concern, or even the concern of Catholics around the world. The difference, and what this Pope Francis has done, he has gone an extra step that other popes have not, or is appearing to about to take an extra step. And that step is, he is endorsing a specific UN climate treaty provision. So this is a game changer from previous popes and previous Vatican statements. The Pope is going to be essentially replacing Leonardo DiCaprio at this year's New York Climate Summit in New York City to speak on behalf of the UN to lobby for a treaty. So it goes from Leonardo DiCaprio in 2014 to Pope Francis in 2015. This is a major concern and will sow confusion among Catholics in America and around the world. We've already got a phenomenon that many Catholics recognize, the a la carte Catholics, where sort of Catholics pick and choose which doctrine they want to follow. And the danger here, with the Pope coming out with such strong comments on global warming and endorsing a UN treaty, are very simple. The Vatican is essentially going to confuse Catholics into thinking that your position on man-made global warming fears is now an article of faith, is now part of Catholic doctrine. And that is a very serious mistake. As the previous speaker, Elizabeth, just went through all the details of the unholy alliance, I would call it, between the agenda of the global warming fear promoters, everything from overpopulation to talking about sterilization agents in the water, as you mentioned, to abortion, to family planning, and of course the development restrictions. What Pope Francis and the Vatican need to realize, and hopefully we're getting that message across, is one of the greatest friends of poor people across the world, who over 1 billion, 1.3 billion and higher, don't have running water, don't have electricity, are carbon-based energy, fossil fuels. And the idea that we can somehow leapfrog to a UN climate treaty, which is then going to allow massive redistribution of wealth, we need to understand the UN IPCC, which is going to be well represented here at this conference tomorrow, has actually had an official, Edenhofer, come out and say that IPCC redistributes wealth by policy. It's not about the science. The EU Climate Commissioner has come out, Connie Hedegaard, and said even if we're wrong on the science, we're doing right by policy. They don't even try to sell the science to endorse the policy. They just say, hey, it doesn't really matter what the science says on global warming. We need these policies. So instead of arguing for centralized energy planning on the merits, they're using climate fear to promote it, and then at the same time they admit that they don't even need the science to support their policies, because this is what they want to do anyway, central planning of energy economy. The Pope's recent comments and his willingness to get involved in the UN treaty process are the key issues of why we're here. But I would argue, and I think the skeptics here would argue, that the Vatican and the Pope should be arguing that fossil fuels are the moral choice for the developing world, where people don't have running water and electricity. And what's also concerning, and I know we spent a lot of time talking about Jeffrey Sachs, but the people that have advised the Vatican Pontifical Academy of Sciences are beyond that. Naomi Oreskes was one of the key advisors. Naomi Oreskes has suggested that RICO statutes, prosecuting skeptics under racketeering charges, is a valid way to go in the United States, because they want to shut down debate. Our arguments are this: the Pope can believe or not believe what he wants on global warming science and listen to who he wants to, but he shouldn't only listen to one side. People that include Naomi Oreskes, people that include Professor Peter Wadhams, who NASA's lead global warming scientist. Gavin Schmidt has said that Peter Wadhams, who's advising the Vatican on global warming, has used charts that ignore basic physics. The global warming establishment is embarrassed by the choices that Pope Francis and the Vatican are choosing to use as their sole source of global warming science. The other advisor was Hans Schulenhuber, the German climate advisor. He's proposed a CO2 budget for every man, woman, and child on the planet, essentially operated by an international organization. And guess what? Everyone in the developing world has already exceeded our CO2 budget. This this is the kind of advice that Pope Francis and the Vatican are getting, and they're allowing no dissent. So here's the key. 2007, Pope Benedict, our Pope Emeritus, for lack of a better word, warned about the prophets of doom of man-made global warming fears. And he actually said the people of wisdom, the Vatican should be listening to people of wisdom, uninhibited by ideology, and not draw hasty conclusions. Well, if you're listening to Naomi Oreskes, Peter Wadhams, and you're listening to Jeffrey Sachs, you're drawing hasty conclusions. By the way, Jeffrey Sachs also said that skeptics have blood on their hands every time a storm goes across the world and death tolls mount from extreme weather. Now, first of all, weather is not more extreme, and there's actual hard science with peer-reviewed studies to back that up. People like Professor Roger Pilkey Jr. have been testifying in Congress about that. But to argue that every storm that happens is now blood on the hand of every skeptic, that's frightening that the Vatican is listening to people like Jeffrey Sachs on that. I want to leave you with one comment on Pope John Paul II. He never got involved in this kind of process. He grew up in Poland. He saw what centralized planning did, both to economics and to human liberty and freedom and development. And obviously it's a difference in the worldview. I think a lot of what the UN is proposing, the redistribution of wealth and all that, is very favorable to Pope Francis' ideology. But the man who heads the Vatican Bank, Cardinal George Pell, who was the Archbishop of Sydney, I'm going to end on his quote. He said in 2006, this is Cardinal George Pell, quote, "In the past, pagans sacrificed animals and even humans in vain attempts to placate the cruel gods. Today, they demand a reduction in CO2 emissions." I would argue that today's human sacrifices that the Cardinal Pell referred to in 2006 are the developing world. If we go forward and restrict carbon-based energy, they are going to be our modern-day human sacrifices, as they are prevented, delayed, and not getting the full benefit of carbon-based energy. You can't allow the United Nations to essentially manage the developing world's development. They can manage it quite well on their own by using natural resources and carbon-based energy. So with that, we urge an appeal to Pope Francis and the Vatican. Do not confuse Catholics. Do not listen to only one side. And do not make our positions on global warming an article of faith. Thank you.